it's a fascinating one today with Marcus Rashford. I felt that, we were talking about him turning the corner, getting a few goals, scored 2 in midweek, won the weekend. And I thought, well, OK, let's get that momentum start to build, get that confidence that we're seeing. He gets left out today and there's that little bit of a cloud over him. I don't think that's ideal as well for the club. And because the manager, every single press conference he's going to be having now is going to be about Marcus Rashford because he's one of his star players. So that's something that I think there's got to be nipped in the bud really quickly, get him back in form and get that confidence that he was just starting to show again.
Yeah, that Rashford's an interesting one. We talked a little bit about this before the game as well, because of the comments that Erik ten Hag had made about him, talking about him needing to find his professionalism and then not starting him in this game. What are your thoughts on it, Phil?
Look, I go back to my playing experiences with Marcus, and he's a hugely talented lad with so much ability to ghost past players. We've seen that time and time again over the years. He's obviously lacking a bit of confidence at the minute, but that's up to him to gain that confidence back. I want to see him get the ball and be direct and take players on, and he's got the manipulation to move the ball and stick one in the top corner. He's got that in his locker, something out of nothing. But I want to see him having the courage to sort of make mistakes, and almost it's okay to make mistakes. Go and get the ball and do it again. I think the best players in the world show that they can eradicate that straight away and then go and get the ball again. So look, he's a fantastic player. He's got so much ability. I remember in training, he would just ghost past you in training. So it's there, it's in him. He just has to find it and rediscover his form. 14 shots 14 touches rather when he came on, but no shots, Jamie. And this from a player who'd got back to scoring, having had a drought since March, had scored 3 goals in a week, but didn't start the game. Does that contribute to the difficulty in maybe getting up to pace with the game when you're coming on as a sub?
Yeah, I think so, Kelly. But I can only imagine when he woke up to those headlines, it probably wasn't enjoyable for him. He's probably going, well, why is the manager bringing that up? I have to be honest, I read initially that it was almost like we've figured it out, and this is why maybe Marcus wasn't doing as well last year, because he wasn't living his life the way that a professional athlete should. But obviously it's been taken slightly differently because he gets left out today. So I don't know what's happened this week. It might come out, it might not.
Ten Hag said rotation in the promotion.
Yeah, I know. He can say Kelly. He played 63 minutes, I think, in midweek. Got 2 goals. You don't take a player that's got 2 goals. Do you think that, as an example, that they're going to do that with Salah at Liverpool if he scored 3 goals in the last 2 games? It's just not going to happen. Something has gone on that we don't quite know. But you know what? If there is something that's a little bit untoward and he's not living his life right, that's something only he can take control of. You've got to make sure that you're on it all the time. I like to night out, we all did, but you've got to make sure that you live your life right, more so than ever. Because in my day, pretty much everyone else was doing it, but not now. You've got to live your life right. You've got to do every single day. You've got to dedicate your life to football, because he needs to go back to that player of 2 years ago when I'm not sure 30-odd goals or something that season. He was ripping it up. He looked incredible. And then you take it to another season, and we keep going. Well, is it his confidence? What's up with Marcus? Why can't he get to that level? It doesn't make any sense that you can have that high standards and then drop to what you did last year. And it almost became, at times, really hard to watch. There was certain games when he just trot around, plod, and not really look like he cared. And what Man United fans, away fans, home fans will always want, and they'll suffer it. You can always play badly, but they'll always want you to make runs. They'll always want you to run without the ball, show you care, because they would give anything to have that shirt on. And it'll only be probably one day when he looks back and thinks, well, why didn't I give a little bit more at times? Because as Phil says, he's got God-given talent, but we just need to see the Marcus Rashford of 2 seasons ago.
30 goals in that season, 2 seasons ago for Marcus Rashford, and that's the kind of form that they're going to need
in the England squad.
If they want to qualify.
I think the good thing as well is if you look at the likes of Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in, and he can feed off that information. Ruud's played at the top level for Man United. He knows what it's about to play for the club, and he can really nurture him and help in that area. So hopefully that'll be a good relationship that he can bond with.
And of course, last season Arsenal took 4 points and didn't concede, getting that 0-0 at the Etihad. What will tomorrow bring? Well, whatever it brings, you have to say Arsenal away from home at the moment. Such an impressive record, unbeaten in the last 11 Premier League games. And as you look at this, Tim, away from home in 2024, played 11, won 10. Drawn 1 and not a single defeat in those. In fact, they've only conceded 3 times. I think that just underlines that under Arteta, he continues to strengthen that defence, that Arsenal, with every season that goes by, are becoming a more resilient side, aren't they?
Absolutely. Find different ways to win games. You saw last week in the North London derby, very an emotional game. Tottenham started very well, I felt. Couldn't open them up. I was at the game and just looking, when you're actually there, you see how comfortable they'll look just defending their box. I think the best back five in the Premier League, without doubt. And with Declan Rice in there, he's back from suspension. He gives them solidity, responsibility in the midfield area. The only thing is that obviously without Odegaard, who will still be out missing with injury, they struggle to create at the moment. I think if
did we see that against Atalanta midweek, where, I mean, the shackles were on. They didn't get to grips with that man marking. But with Odegaard not there, in terms of possession and giving the ball away cheaply at times, his absence was pretty obvious, wasn't it?
I think so. I think obviously Declan can drive from them areas if you let him go and play as an 8. But then who are you going to have sitting in front and protecting? So if you're going away to Man City, you'd rather protect your goal. But I believe if they're going to win the Premier League, they have to take maximum points away at places like Man City. Didn't do that last year. They got a draw. It cost them in the end. They can't rely on other teams going and taking points off City. They have to go and do it themselves. But when you haven't got your best 2 players like last week, like Odegaard and Declan Rice, obviously Saka's in there with being their best players as well, you need to go and take maximum points in a North London derby, and I thought they all stood up and did that brilliantly. So it's on them tomorrow, but for me, I think they're going to have to open up. They're going to have to find a space, but Odegaard's a huge miss. You know, the likes of Havertz is missing him, Saka's missing him, because when they make the runs, he finds them with that pass in between the lines, you know, so... difficult scenario, and how he's going to take it, Arteta, and approach this game will be interesting to see, because
what's
it may
your
be a
hunch
set
on
piece
how he
again.
approaches it?
I think he goes exactly like he did last week. You know, try and be solid, especially
last week or last season.
Last week.
Yeah.
Last week, pretty similar to last season.
Away
as
to
well.
Tottenham. Yeah.
Yeah. I think on the face of it, you look here away at Man City, a draw is a good result, but. Like I say, if you're not going to take maximum points, don't rely on anyone else taking maximum points off City. And it might just come to that 1 or 2 points at the end of the season. So perhaps he might be tempted to go for it and take maximum.
But psychologically, Sue, that win away to Tottenham a week ago without a key player like Odegaard, Rice suspended as well. He'll be back, of course, for tomorrow's game. Psychologically, that's a big boost, isn't it?
Yeah, I think to go and win, like you say, with a depleted team, of course, that makes it even more impressive. And that's the big question, is what approach are they going to take against Manchester City? Because I remember last season where some were saying, well, could they have actually gone for it? Could they have gone for the 3 points? But it's so difficult to do against a Manchester City side that's full of quality. We know how strong Arsenal are defensively with Gabriel and Saliba and the players in front. So you just think the game's going to be won on small margins, like it was against Tottenham. So you think a set piece comes, you know how key they are and how strong they are at set pieces. So they just looked, like Tim said, so well drilled, so structured, so organised. And then when a set piece come, you knew that the delivery was going to be good. And, you know, it's a great header, isn't it? Tottenham will be very disappointed. Tim's very disappointed just watching that again. But yeah, that's the thing. They highlighted it as maybe a weakness of Tottenham's, and they know that it's a strength of theirs. But really strong header from Gabriel.
And he's made building, Boydie, that defence an absolute priority. They've only conceded 1 goal so far this season. I think that's their joint best defensive start in any top division season. I was reading a column by Jamie Carragher this week, and he was talking about that partnership of Gabriel and Saliba, and he says if they stay together, if they stay at the club, this could be a partnership that ends up being on a level with those famous partnerships that we saw between John Terry and Carvalho at Chelsea, Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand at United. Could they be that good? Are they that kind of level potentially?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing on that would be Arsenal need to start winning for them to be in that category.
Trophy cabinet.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
filled
like,
again.
You look at players, and there's, I think, in terms of that partnership, and you go back through even Arsenal over the years as well. You know, you could relate to other partnerships that they've had, but they've been successful, so they'll be ahead of them at this moment in time. Looking at, Arsenal, I think Ben White goes under the radar as well. I think the job he does, that left side has been an issue. They've chopped and changed, but Timber's come in there, and obviously he probably would have been the one last year, but with the injury he had, but he looks as if he's never been away in that left-hand side. But I mean, if you go back to this time last year, and people were questioning about the arrival of David Raya and Ramsdale being out of the team, and you've got to say, you look at the other two, Liverpool and Not so much maybe Liverpool, but Man City, they had a problem with the goalkeeping area, and the managers made that decision that they were going to change them and go and get. And they've been two pivotal players in the success that both of those clubs have had. David Raya is in that bracket now. I mean, you speak about Gabriel and Saliba and the solidity they've got there, but David Raya is key to that as well. They've got full confidence in him now. At the start, there was questions, there was pressure. You know, Ramsdale had done so well, he had made saves. Mikel Arteta knew exactly what he was doing here, and this is the real deal in nets now.
And that double save by Raya midweek in the Champions League was absolutely incredible. Right, let's get some predictions from the guys ahead of tomorrow's second part of Super Sunday. I kind of think I know where you're going, Tim, on this one because of what you said already. You're going for a draw.
I'm not going for a draw.
You're not?
No. I think City will win. I think it'll be 1-0. I just think that it might not be Haaland. I think you're occupied Gabriel and Saliba, and I think it might be a Jack Grealish, you know, come to the party and score, you know, one of the 10s where he occupies the space just behind him. So for me, I'm just going to say Man City 1-0.
Sue, what are you going for?
I am going for a draw. I'm going for a 0-0. That's two draws, yeah, but an exciting 0-0. So make sure you do tune into it.
Well rescued, Boydie.
I'm going to tune in for that 0-0.
It'll be a real exciting one, end to end.
I'm going to say 1-0 Arsenal.
1-0 Arsenal.
Wow.
1-0 to the Arsenal. Let's have a little chat about the Champions League because, of course, it returned midweek with a brand new format. There are a couple of fairly forgettable games involving Man City and Arsenal, both of those finishing 0-0, but terrific nights for Liverpool. Of course, for Aston Villa, back in the top European competition for the first time in 41 years. And Celtic, impressive as well, with that 5-1 win against Slovan Bratislava at Celtic Park on Wednesday. But there has been, as you might have read, a little bit of criticism about this brand new format. I mean, listen, Tim, it feels a little bit unfair to be already laying into the Champions League. We're only at match day 1, but it's going to take a while to get used to this new league phase. But the criticism seemed to be, and I just wonder whether drawing your sample size from the Man City game and the Arsenal game is really enough to say this, that there's a lack of real jeopardy in this year's Champions League stage. Do you concur with that, or think the criticism has been a little bit too much too early? Yeah,
a little bit too much too early, but I do agree to a certain extent. I think there's no need to panic in games, and they need to take maximum points as long as they don't lose games. I think we will find. Let's see how it pans out towards the end of the season, but you're probably going to get the best teams coming through. Obviously, they've got so much opportunity to be able to do it. Don't have to panic. Just plot their way through. I think Pep Guardiola and Man City will not be panicking after a 0-0 draw. There's some decent teams in it, and there's some not so good teams in it. I tell you, who is happy with it? All the clubs who are in the Champions League, because there's more games, it's more money,
exactly,
and there's more coverage, you know, on the games. But I think it's a bit early to draw any conclusions. But what we will see is, I think, when we do get through to the knockout stage, it'll be very, very exciting because every team left in it will be not capable of winning it, obviously, but capable of springing a surprise, certainly. I use Aston Villa as an example. No one will want to play Aston Villa because
that was a terrific start, wasn't it?
Brilliant start for them. It's a game you would expect them to win. Premier League teams are going to be obviously the main force, I would suggest, along with Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich have had a brilliant start to their domestic campaign, and I think they might be a team who might push to win it. But for me, it'll be the same old faces. We're looking at Man City. We're looking at Real Madrid. I think Arsenal possibly, if on their day, could beat anyone. But certainly the teams who are going to be left in it after this group stage, after the league stage, is going to be very, very competitive.
By the way, 6 minutes past 12, first drop phone of the afternoon, if you heard that at home, and it was, of course, Boydie. Boydie, welcome back. He's gone very early this afternoon. And so, I mean, Tim mentioned this. I mean, one of the criticism is that from the big club's point of view, that this is a money spinner as opposed to an excitement spinner. Is that a fair criticism?
Again, I think it's probably too early to say, you know, to talk about the differences, if it's better or if it's worse. And I suppose after maybe a few more games, we can start to say that.
People don't like change, though, do we? Across the board, whether it's in sport or life.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, there's been some big games, some big matchups, which I'm sure you still get at group stages, don't you? You know, the Liverpool against Milan, City against Inter, but then there was a few mismatches as well where there's a few big scorelines. So I know there's been a lot of talk about the, you know, sort of player welfare. Is it too many games and things like that? So I know there's been a lot of players coming out speaking about that, and I'm not sure there's going to be many people feeling sorry for them, but, you know, you can maybe understand where those big teams are coming from. But certainly from an owner's perspective and a club's perspective, of course, financially, they want as many games and as many big games as possible.
Well, I mean, that's one of the other criticisms, that this is appeasing the very clubs who were pushing for that Super League as well. I can tell you all about change. I experienced that at the start of last season, if I cast my mind back. Coming to you, Boydie, on this. I mean, listen, on a positive front, it's thrown up some very early big clashes, not least of all the one we saw on Tuesday night between AC Milan and Liverpool, which actually was a terrific game.
Simon, I don't get the criticism of it. You know, we sat here probably last year and all of a sudden you could more or less pick the two teams that were coming out of the group stage and it was boring. You look at this right now, there'll be some big teams now that fight on to, finishing that top, and they'll still have, the backup of finishing, the middle group, and they'll go into a playoff. I don't see the criticism of it. I think it gives lesser teams more of an opportunity to pick up money as well, which you would then look to. That will help, the leagues that they play in, because everybody gets a kickback off UEFA for, represent their teams representing in the competition as well. I don't really see the big issue with it. I thought, the difficult part was actually having it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday rather than just a Tuesday and a Wednesday last week. But I don't see any issue with it, and I'm looking forward to the competition, because I think it was getting to the stage where the old four teams in the group was, as I said, you could more or less say they're going to go through. They'll play in the last 16, and then that's it. You look forward to the competition. I mean, how many times have we said that the competition starts now? February time when they all came back. I don't mind this format, because there is some big teams that are going to have to get results straight away.
Echo what you say there, Boydie. Every group you could normally nearly pick the top two. Every single group you think it's got to be one of them, and then there might be surprise. Here there could quite easily be surprises, and I think it gives a lot more teams more opportunities of getting out of this 9 group stage, as you could say.
And just a final thought on this, because inevitably, because of those extra games they're going to be in this league phase of the Champions League season, it's thrown up the annual debate about the amount of games that players are playing across the season. Rodri's been very outspoken about this. I thought it was interesting yesterday that Pep Guardiola kind of said this is a player issue, not a club issue, because when you look at it, you can understand it from the players' point of view, but it's the clubs who are pushing for more games. You look at Tottenham at Newcastle. Remember the end of last season? We left here on that Sunday. A couple of days later, they're both flying out to Australia to play a friendly. That's the clubs pushing for this. So in terms of how this is sorted out, the clubs have a big responsibility.
They have a huge responsibility, Simon, and I agree with that. I can see both sides of it, because we all know the hierarchy at every football club. What's their main aim? To be success. How does that bring success? Generating more money, so then we can put that money into the squads. From a player's point of view, you're going, we just feel as though we're getting used, and we're having to play more and more games, and you're hearing big players come out and talk about the overload and the tiredness and fatigue. You only get tired if you're doing well in competitions. If you're not playing many games, it means you're out in the Carabao Cup,
the price
out
of
in the
success
FA
doors,
Cup.
isn't it?
Exactly, Simon, and we all wanted success.
I know you've mentioned Rodri there, but there's not many big players, at the elite level. I know Rodri's probably going against what I'm about to say here, but the elite level, you don't really see many of them coming out and moaning about it, because they base their career on success, winning trophies, going into the latter stages of competitions, whether that's Champions League, whether that's World Cups, whether it's European Championships, whether it's Copa America. That's what happens. If you are an elite footballer, you're going to go deep into competitions.
I think it will.
Messi doesn't moan about winning stuff.
The momentum will come, though. I think we've heard it. We heard Alisson, we've heard Rodri. There will be more and more players coming out. We see Pep Guardiola saying it's not about the owners, not about the managers, it's about the players. It's up to them now. Maresca said exactly the same thing in his press conference as well yesterday. This will gain momentum. I think there will be the Club World Cup, for instance. There's a change to format. There's going to be more games than that. Look, if I was a player, the more games means you're more successful. So I'd be happy with that situation. But Tim, that's why we've got big squads now.
Have you noticed it's the bigger players, the world-class players that are coming out and
they're wheeling them out.
Because they're playing international football as well.
They're playing international, but these players are the people who are influential, the big players. If you hear a lower Premier League player come out and saying
it's not going to make any difference. So the higher UEFA and FIFA, they'll decide what happens.
But they're obviously fronting this. It's obviously they haven't just come out and said I'm going to front this media and I'm going to put it out there. There must be other people in the changing room speaking about it. Surely there isn't just one person.
Have you ever played with a player that sits in and moans about the amount of games he's playing? You want to play games of football?
Of course you do. Of course you do.
And I think, in truth, just rounding this, I'm not sure UEFA or FIFA will really care what Rodri or anyone else has to say.